Nah man, it's chill. We're here to help you with your democracy and with self-governance. So the Pinoys were like, okay G, kasi they promised din naman a lot of good things. But this whole time, Aguinaldo was like, teka lang, parang we're not truly free kasi parang the US still kept hold of the Philippines. So another war broke out again. But anyway, long story short, America won the war. Pero we're still friends kasi we were granted naman full independence from the US. We had the 1935 Constitution and then we had our first elections. And then guess who became president? Si Manuel L. Quezon, you know the guy on the 20 peso bill? So yeah, that's it. And then we became happily ever after. Joke lang pala kasi the Japanese came in World War II. Oh yeah, stay tuned for Tiwala's next video to know the development of democracy in the Philippines. We're so layo pa from being over, kaya don't forget to follow our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram para hintay-hintay ka na lang for our latest updates. And share mo rin to your mga barkadas para they can learn din. Uy, welcome to part 2 of Making Kwento, Democracy in the Philippines. Thank you for making a bangers from our last video. In the last video, I made kwento how our governments worked from the pre-colonial hanggang American period. And now, we'll umpisa from where we left off, the Japanese occupation. Oh my god, when the Japanese soldiers came to the Philippines, they were so strict Like, okay, if you see a Japanese soldier, kailangan you make sunod the curfew or other things like they say, otherwise, patay ka na. They made bawal so many things, like the lupang hinirang, basta, you had to be super obedient to them. And it went on like that until the I Shall Return guy, si MacArthur, came back to the Philippines. Thus, with his help, he made bomba the mga Japanese troops until America got control and gave us our independence back. We were free na from the mga Hapon, diba? Edi we had so much loss. We had to recover a lot. Kaya ang dami mga economic problems, corruption, at poverty. Kaya the president then, si Manuel Rojas, utilized the SONA para he can kwento-kwento to the people kung ano-ano ginagawa nila for them after the war. Tapos nag-resume din ang elections. Pero yun nga, you can only vote from one political party. But dude, come on, we're just getting started. Alam mo, the next period is martial law. I'm pretty sure you've heard so much kwento from your lolos and lolas about that. You know naman, diba, that Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law to suspend civil rights and then go against the mga komunistas, diba? Okay, but during this time, Filipinos weren't allowed to speak anything against him. Tas so many human rights violations pa. Daming mga warrantless arrests, tortures, murder, massacres, basta if you fought them, deads ka na. But that's not it, kasi tumaas din death and poverty rates and it was so hard for the Filipinos to survive. Then biglang Marcos was like, parang I want another term. And then there were people who were like, okay, I'll run din. But Marcos said, no, ako lang. So of course, he won the snap election. Pero that's kind of unfair, diba? Then his opponent, Ninoy Aquino, though beloved by so many people, got assassinated. And people were like, oh my god, ayoko na. So hundreds and thousands of people went to EDSA for a peaceful 3-day revolution to oust Marcos. Then after that, Cory Aquino, the wife of Ninoy, became president. Then we got the 1987 Constitution, which advocates for equal rights for all. And ang galing, ginagamit pa rin yung today. This was also when we had our government separated into 3 branches, and they all work hand in hand to uphold democracy. Years later, people got so galit again at ERAP for plunder, which is basically like stealing pera and goods. So he got kicked out of presidency, and then this lady became president. She eventually got detained though kasi corruption charges. O diba, you see how democracy gets threatened. Kaya nga, it's important that we vote for the right people. Alam mo, it's President Duterte's last year na in his term, and there's going to be another election this 2022. And during this term alone, we've already been experiencing the anti-terror, red tagging, and kung ano-ano pa. Kaya let's learn from the past by acting in the present. I'm sure we would all love to live in a better Philippines, diba? So, what are you waiting for? Go register! And go vote, come on. And don't forget, do it wisely.
day mga kababayan! Welcome back to another Tiwala video. This week we are tackling the
Philippine party list system.
No, it's not your typical tugstugan party. Sorry, bawal, because COVID still be wildin' out there. Politics has a lot of difficult to understand terms, but we'll make it not difficult to understand. According to
Republic Act number 7941, a party
is not this kind of
party.
a party. Is an organized
Group of citizens.
They advocate on an ideology, principle, or policy that they believe should be implemented for the government. The party regularly nominates and supports its members as candidates for public office. With that being said, a party list system is a mechanism of
Proportional representation.
from the national, regional, and sectorial parties registered with the Commission on Elections when electing officials for the
House of Representatives.
Huh? What does that mean? Simply put, it is a kind of voting
Voting
system.
system.
It makes sure that all political parties, especially the ones supporting
Marginalized or underrepresented Filipinos.
are given positions in the House of Representatives rather than just having certain groups dominating the field. These are the different parties that must be represented accordingly. Sectoral party. The organized group of citizens belonging to a specific sector whose main advocacy is to address the concerns of the sector. National party. The citizens are spread throughout the
Geographical domain.
for the majority of the regions. Yes, love the diversity here. Regional party. The citizens are from the majority of provinces or cities of a specific region. Sectoral organization. A group of citizens who share similar physical characteristics, employment, interests, or concerns.
But what are the qualifications of a party list nominee? Woo!
Next. Want to join a party?
Well, you've got to wait a minute. Kapit mainit.
You need some qualifications to enter. Parang ID sa club, no?
So, what are the requirements?
A person who is eligible to be nominated as a representative of the party list should
Be a natural born Filipino citizen of the Philippines.
be a registered voter.
Be a Filipino resident for at least 1 year before election day. Be able to read and write.
Sis, basic skills lang to, please.
Be a bona fide member of the party/organization they are wishing to represent for at least 90 days before elections.
Batang may laban. Dapat, okay.
And last but not the least, be at least 25 years old on the day of elections. What about us? What about the manner of voting?
Also, you have not one, but two. Not three, but two. Yes, two. Hindi two chances sa love, pero two sa votes. The first vote is for a specific candidate to be a member of the
House of Representatives.
in his legislative district. The second vote is for a particular party, organization, or coalition to be represented in the
House of Representatives. But what are the different party systems? You may ask. Well, there are 9 electoral parties in the Philippine party list system.
But not all parties have the same vibe, right? It's like that too for the
Philippine party list system.
There are two kinds of parties, the left wing and the right wing. The party people in the left wing focus on ideas such as freedom, equality, while the right wing is mostly on notions such as authority and nationalism.
Party!
Basically, just liberal and conservative parties.
But before we break them down and name the most popular political parties, there are other parties that are just as important in the House of Representatives. They give a chance for the sectors of underrepresented Filipinos to have a voice in the lawmaking process.
Bring the beat in. DJ. The Philippines different. Party system.
Party!
The liberal.
Party!
United Nationalist Alliance, Nationalist People's Coalition,
What's up?
Partido Demokratiko Pilipino, Lakas ng Bayan, Kilusang Bagong Lipunan, Lakas Christian Muslim Democrats, Aksyon Demokratiko, National Unity Party. I'm not a rat, okay? I guess that sums it up for the
Philippine party list system.
If you've learned today, then I've done my job. I won't get fired. We hope you enjoyed this video by Tiwala 2021. To learn more on how to become a better Filipino citizen, stay tuned. Follow our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram to learn more about the Philippines.
Today, we will be walking you through how you can be of service to your country. Number 1. Be patriotic. Patriotism is simply showing devotion and pride for your country and people. You can be a morally upright and patriotic citizen by reading up on your social studies, paying your taxes, respecting the national anthem, and pretty much any little thing that would hint at your love for the country. Number 2. Be a productive member of society. Offer up your talents and skills for the betterment of society. Whether you are an employee, a business owner, an artist, a public servant, a caregiver, or even a student, offer up your work for the betterment of all. Number 3. Be well informed. Always go out of your way to know what is going on in your country. If you are here, right now, take this as a sign to read the national and global news. You won't regret it. You can always start with this knowledge to devise actions for the development of your country. Number 4. You should always be vigilant. A country depends on a well-informed and civic-minded population to safeguard the people's freedoms and political rights. Therefore, adhere to the limits of state action, and if you find that the government is overstepping its bounds or failing in its duties, speak up. Number 5. Be participative. Get yourself involved with your political life. Be enthusiastic in letting your voice be heard. You always have the means to be the leader your community needs. Your voice holds so much power. That being said, practice your right to vote. Number 6. Be a mentor. You are the citizens of tomorrow, so be teachers to the kids of the future and teach them to be good citizens for their generation. Number 7. You must mutually respect everyone, no matter the differences you may have. Keep in mind that if you disrespect or harm others in any form, this may cause violence between cultures, religions, or races. The last thing we want is anything that will divide us from one another. So don't be judgmental. Be considerate, helpful, polite, and aware of others. Number 8. Be obedient and follow all laws that are set down by your government. This is for your own safety and for the safety of others. Public service workers would have less of a hard time and less pressure over them if everyone just followed basic laws. Number 9. Sacrifice yourself. A good citizen subordinates his self-interest in all public affairs and is prepared to fight for others. They are there to protect the rights of those who need protection and to take an active part in all public services. Number 10. Sincerely and faithfully perform all of your duties. As a good citizen, you must cooperate with state officials in the discharge of their duties and remember to pay for your taxes. After reading through the 10 attributes of a good citizen, do you think you're doing your part? If not, you better follow this list to make the Philippines better for our generation and for future generations to come.
Are you tired of being led on? Are you tired of giving the time of day to people who put their wants before your needs? Are you tired of people who don't do the bare minimum to maintain the inner peace you oh so value? Are you tired of trusting no good dirty liars who do nothing but take and take and take and take and take and take and take until you have nothing left to give? Well, look no further. We have decided to finally unveil our brand new product application. Yes, that's right. Give a hand for Voter, where choosing wisely always comes easy. Wait, you thought this was a dating app? Tough luck. Electing officials with the proper credentials is just as important as finding a potential boyfriend or girlfriend. If you think all you desperate singles have it bad, think about the repercussions of electing an official who don't do their job. So, shh, and let me explain. This ingenious application was created by none other than us, your most trustworthy and reliable companions at a world-renowned tech company, Political Correctness. An app designed to have all the information you need in the palm of your hand. Now, choosing a candidate is no longer a chore, but a joyful hobby. Voter uses the most cutting-edge AI technology in the world, created using a thorough analysis of the minds of the world's top political scientists, along with the occasional average Joe with more than half a brain and some basic human decency. Political candidates are accurately screened and categorized according to strict criteria. So, let's say you're stuck on a political candidate. My, isn't he handsome? He's an actor and he's got quite the following. You might just vote for him. But wait, let's use the app first to see if this man's actually worth his salt. Oh dear, guess you can't judge a book by its cover now, can you? This man owns none of the required characteristics of a good politician. Now let's see what he does have. Ooh, he's a messy one. Now you're probably wondering, what do I do when I find a candidate that I just don't want to vote for? That's very easy. Just swipe left and voila! That man is gone and you won't have to spare a second thought about voting for this old clown. Your work isn't done yet though, because now you've got a new candidate to screen. Wow, this guy's just as good looking as the other one. But first, let's see if he's just as bad. And he passes with flying colors. Now that we found a perfect candidate, all you gotta do is swipe right, and now you've got a perfect match made in heaven. This candidate practically landed in your lap with minimal effort. Politics is now... Oh, Mr. Corrupt Politician, what are you doing here? I'm live, and wait, please, I have a family, sir, please, no! We at Tiwala hope that you've paid attention to the list of characteristics mentioned in our voter commercial. Although the voter app isn't real, looking into each candidate's characteristic is an incredibly important factor when voting for a politician. Stay tuned for next week for an upcoming big surprise that we at Tiwala have prepared for you. Don't forget to follow our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram to see what's in store. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Grade 12 General Academic Strand students and the Student Council of Parif Woodrose warmly welcome you to Tiwala, para sa Kabataan, para sa Bayan. I am Lisa Sator, your host for today, and I'd like to thank you all for attending this event. If you have been watching since the beginning of today's live broadcast, you would have seen a compilation of different videos about Philippine democracy, politics, good governance, and citizenship. All of these videos, as well as the posters, infographics, and write-ups found on the Tiwala Facebook page, were produced by our GAS students. To begin today's program, we would like to welcome the grade 12 politics and governance teacher who will deliver this afternoon's opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Ana Romana.
Dear students, our PAREF community, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is an honor to welcome you to this afternoon's forum entitled Tiwala, para sa Kabataan, para sa Bayan. To say that the present state of affairs in Philippine politics leaves more to be desired would be an understatement. Change was a battle cry that resonated well among Filipinos back in 2016. Soon after, the hope for true meaningful reforms went out the window, replacing feelings of helplessness as the country stood witness to a political state hounded by lingering issues on corruption, a worsening human rights environment, seemingly decaying moral climate, and a very divided nation. The year 2020 exposed gaps in leadership that left the country reeling from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic and a very visible challenge to our sovereignty. With the election year just around the corner, voter participation has become even more of an imperative, especially among the youth, whose very futures are at stake. It is with this in mind that this forum was conceived, to hold a voters' education campaign that objectively recognizes the needs of our nation, while instilling the will to work towards tangible solutions for the benefit of our people. Tiwala started as a project of the Philippine Politics and Governance class, where students were given the option to either work in groups or work as a class for a common goal, push for voter education. What started as an academic requirement students were only supposed to comply with turned into a real mission. And with the help of the Student Council, the advocacy to encourage fellow youth and uninvolved citizens to register to vote for the upcoming 2022 elections took shape. And as an advocacy, the students became relentless, meeting every week, producing educational videos and publicity materials with different themes about democracy, citizenship, and good governance. This webinar is the culmination of wonderful collaboration as a class and with the Student Council. It is the fruits of their work with the support of the Woodrose community and friends, for which we are truly grateful. It is truly a passion project, a labor of love. What you will witness today is a result of hard work done while beating deadlines, submission of final projects, and studying for final exams. Seeing the hard work the students put in and the determination to push their advocacy has provided me with a heart full of hope, trust, or tiwala that the youth will be the force of change we truly need. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tiwala. Be informed, be involved, start working towards a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Romana, for encouraging our students to dream big. This event would not have been possible without your constant guidance and support throughout this whole endeavor. As was mentioned earlier, this project started out as an idea that Mrs. Romana proposed to the grade 12 GAS students for their final output in their Philippine Politics and Governance class. She suggested that they do a project about voter participation that would encourage the youth to register for the upcoming 2022 national elections. Through the collective efforts of each member of the class, her idea then grew into what Tiwala is today, a campaign that aims to educate Filipino youth on concepts in democracy, politics, governance, and citizenship, in order to address the pressing need for young voters to register and vote in the 2022 national elections. However, the students' efforts will go beyond the election period, as their vision for their generation is for them to be educated and responsible citizens whose decisions steer the country towards successful democracy and leadership. All of the output that the students came up with were applied concepts and lessons from their PolGov class. They worked with the end of creating content that would generate not only interest, but involvement in the political affairs of our country. Today, discussions about politics can be difficult and divisive. However, today's young voters, along with all other citizens, need to recognize their responsibility to serve and protect their fellow Filipinos, especially during this time of pandemic. The only way to tackle these immense challenges is by believing in one's capacity to contribute to the country's progress, and by believing in the capacity of our countrymen to do the same. From this idea, the students drew their slogan for this campaign: Believe in the Filipino. With that, we can now begin the program with a talk from our first speaker. Our esteemed speaker gained his law degree from the University of the Philippines College of Law and received multiple credentials in this field, such as the Outstanding Achievement Award in Law from the Ateneo de Manila Alumni Association, the Outstanding UP Alumni in Public International Law, and the Doctorate of Laws honoris causa by the Ateneo de Davao University. He was also the recipient of the Presidential Medal of Merit for his distinguished and exemplary service to the Republic by then-President Fidel Ramos. He is probably more familiar to our youth as the head of the High Court's Committee on the Revision of the Rules of Court and a well-known advocate for the Philippines' sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. Let us give a warm welcome to retired Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, who will discuss how we can foster unity through defending the rights of the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Justice Antonio Carpio.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for inviting me this afternoon to discuss with you our sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. I hope you have watched my video lecture in YouTube on defending our sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. So this afternoon, what I will do is to present to you some slides that will complete your understanding of the West Philippine Sea issue and also to update you on recent developments. So kindly allow me to share the screen so that I have some slides to show. You're familiar now with the 1734 Murillo-Velarde map, the most famous map of the Philippines, my favorite map. When this first appeared in Europe in 1734, they were amazed because it was state-of-the-art. If you take a magnifying glass and look at the map, you will see all the towns in the Philippines at the time, about 600 towns in the Philippines. All the names of the towns are there. So this is very detailed. It was like looking at Earth in Google Map at that time. So it was state of the art. Europeans were amazed at how detailed this map was. So this map shows Panakot, Scarborough Shoal at the top, and then you have below the Los Bajos de Paragua, the shoals of Palawan. And where did Father Pedro Murillo Velarde get the idea that the Spratlys belonged to the Philippines in 1734? There was an earlier map by Nicolas Sanson, a Frenchman. He was the royal cartographer of King Louis XIII of France, and he made a map of the Philippines in 1657. And in his map, he included the Spratlys as part of the Philippines. So way back in 1657, the Spratlys were already known to be part of Philippine territory. And this map is very important because in 1933, France annexed the Spratlys as part of the overseas territories of the French Union. Overseas territories of the French Union are territories that are actually part of France itself. The inhabitants of overseas territories are French citizens and they vote in every French election. So France annexed the Spratlys not as part of their colony in Indochina, Vietnam, but as part of the French mainland in Europe. So Vietnam today cannot claim the Spratlys as the successor of France because France never claimed the Spratlys on behalf of Indochina, but France claimed it on behalf of France itself. And in 1688, Father Coronelli, a Franciscan, made a map of the Philippines. Father Coronelli is a very famous map maker. He was, later on, he became the Father General of the Franciscan Order. The Franciscans arrived in the Philippines in 1578 and would write periodic reports to the Vatican, send periodic reports, and they would include in the reports maps of islands that were given names, the new provinces that were settled by the Spaniards. And so Father Coronelli was there in the Vatican sitting, waiting for all of these reports, and he made a map from all of these reports. And he drew a line around the Philippines, and you can see in Palawan, within the lines are the Spratlys. So way back in 1688, the Spratlys were already considered part of the Philippines. How about Scarborough Shoal? In 1792, Alessandro Malaspina arrived in the Philippines in May of 1792. He headed a scientific expedition that Spain sent all over the world to visit the Spanish possessions, territories all over the world, to gather specimens of flora and fauna, to chart the waters of the Spanish possessions overseas. So it was a scientific expedition, like sending a man to the moon at the time. And the British did it earlier through Captain Cook, who had a scientific expedition that went around the world also. So Malaspina was here in Manila in 1792, and he went to Scarborough Shoal, and he made a hydrographic survey of Scarborough Shoal. Hydrographic survey means he measured the depths of the areas around Scarborough Shoal, because Scarborough Shoal was a very famous shoal. Earlier in 1748, the British tea clipper ship Scarborough ran aground on Scarborough Shoal, and that's why European cartographers called the shoal Scarborough Shoal. So it was a very famous shoal. So Malaspina, when he was here in Manila, he went to Scarborough Shoal and conducted a hydrographic survey, the first hydrographic survey ever made of Scarborough Shoal. And this hydrographic survey is in the Museo Naval of Spain. And I asked the Spanish embassy the Philippine embassy in Spain to give me a copy, to get a copy for me. And Malaspina, in his journal, because he kept a journal, and his entry in his journal on May 4, 1792 is this: on this shoal, Spanish and foreign ships have been lost. That was the entry he made when he went to Scarborough Shoal on May 4, 1792. How about the Americans, where the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1898. And when the Americans arrived here after signing the Treaty of Paris, they found out there were many territories outside the treaty lines, no? But they came out with this first map, the first map ever made by the Americans when they became 1899, made by Father Jose Algue, another Jesuit priest. And it shows here in this circle, Bajo de Masinloc, the shoal of Masinloc, Baho means shoal also. So this is an official map because it says United States Coast and Geodetic Survey, published by the US government in Washington, D.C. So in 1899, everybody knew in the Philippines and the US that Scarborough Shoal is part of Philippine territory. And in 1938, the Philippine government was run by the Commonwealth government composed of Filipinos. So the Filipinos at that time really had a very good foresight. They were worried that another country might claim Scarborough Shoal. And they wanted to put up a lighthouse on Scarborough Shoal to prevent other countries from claiming Scarborough Shoal. So they wrote a letter to the Secretary of State, Colonel Hull, asking if Scarborough Shoal is part of Philippine territory. And Secretary Colonel Hull, in his memorandum of July 27, 1938, said, because of the absence of other claims, no country claimed the shoal should be regarded as included among the islands ceded to the U.S. in the American-Spanish Treaty of November 7, 1900. That's the Treaty of Washington. So here is a document where the U.S. acknowledged expressly that Scarborough Shoal is one of the islands ceded by Spain to the U.S. in the Treaty of Washington of November 7, 1900. Remember the treaty which says everything else outside the treaty lines are also ceded to the U.S. And therefore, Secretarial said that they interposed no objection to the proposal of the Philippine government to study the possibility of putting up an aid for navigation, that means a lighthouse, on the shoal. Now, we won, of course, the arbitration, and after we won, China had to invent other false claims again, and they invented three false claims. First, China said the Cairo Declaration of 1943 awarded the Spratlys and the Paracels to China. The Cairo Declaration was issued by the big three powers, headed by US President Roosevelt, UK Prime Minister Churchill, and the Chinese President Chiang Kai-shek. They met in Cairo to decide what to do with the territories that Japan seized in World War I and World War II. And the Chinese are now saying that in that Cairo conference, which came out with the Cairo Declaration, the three powers awarded the Spratlys and the Paracels to China. False, and I will show that later. The other claim of China is that in the Potsdam Declaration of 1945, that was issued by President Truman of the US, Prime Minister Winston Churchill of UK, and Chinese President Chiang Kai-shek, they met in Potsdam and issued a declaration. The Chinese are claiming that in that declaration, the Paracels and the Spratlys were awarded to China. False again, false. And the third false claim of China is that the San Francisco Peace Conference awarded the Paracels and the Spratlys to China. Totally false. Let me explain. The Cairo Conference produced the Cairo Declaration, and in number 2 of the items listed in the Cairo Declaration, it says, all territories that Japan has stolen from the Chinese, including Manchuria, Formosa, shall be restored to the Republic of China. There is no mention here of vessels. Only Formosa and Manchuria were mentioned. The Spratlys and the Paracels would fall in item 3. Japan will also be expelled from all other territories which it has seized or taken by violence and greed. So the Paracels and Spratlys would fall under item 3. And there is no country to whom the territories will be awarded. It's silent. there was no statement at all in the Cairo conference, in the Cairo declaration, that the Spratlys and the parcels would be awarded to China. So that was totally false. We go to the Potsdam Declaration. The Potsdam Declaration merely reiterated the Cairo Declaration. And it stated that Japanese sovereignty shall be limited to the islands of Honshu, Hokkaido, and Kyushu, Shikoku, and other minor islands to be determined. No mention whatsoever of the paracels and the Spratlys being awarded to China. Then we go to the treaty that actually ended the Pacific War, the 1951 San Francisco Peace Treaty. This peace treaty was actually denounced by the People's Republic of China, by Communist China, as illegal because they were not invited there, because there was a civil war that was going on up to 1950, 49, 50 in mainland China. And so there were two Chinas at that time, one led by Chiang Kai-shek in Taiwan and the other one by Mao Zedong in mainland China. So they were not, both of them were not invited. So the People's Republic of China denounced the treaty as illegal. And in that conference, the USSR made a motion, a formal motion to award the paracels and the Spratlys to China. And that motion was defeated by a vote of 46-3 with one abstention. In fact, in reality, the San Francisco Peace Conference rejected expressly to award the paracels and the Spratlys to China. So it's totally contrary to what they are claiming. So we go to the final disposition of the arbitral award, dispositive, that means the final disposition of the case. And the ruling says China's claims to historic rights, to maritime areas under the 9-dash line are contrary to the convention and without lawful effect. Contrary to the convention and without lawful effect. The convention, the arbitral tribunal declares that the convention superseded any historic rights. So all historic rights in the EEZ, in the exclusive economic zone, were superseded, were extinguished. And one of those historic rights, of course, is the traditional fishing rights, which China is now claiming as basis for its right to fish in our EEZ in the West Philippine Sea. Now, there was a failed attempt at a solution. Last 2018, a memorandum of understanding was signed between China and the Philippines on cooperation to extract oil and gas in the West Philippine Sea. So there was actually a memorandum of understanding that was signed. The terms of reference to implement the MOU was also signed in 2019. And there was supposed to be a last agreement, a commercial agreement between CNOOC, China National Offshore Company, and Forum Energy, which was awarded by the Philippines service contract in Reed Bank, but it never happened. I think China changed its mind. I supported this because it would have solved it would have been a win-win solution. China would recognize our sovereign rights, but CNOOC will take the gas on a 60-40 basis, which is the commercial sharing anywhere in the world. That is actually how Malampaya gas is being exploited. So we will not be giving up anything. But China, I think, changed its mind. No signing of the last agreement. And instead, China passed a law last February 2021, a new law allowing its Coast Guard to fire on any foreign vessel conducting fishing or surveying within the 9-dash line. So this changes everything. We're back to the position of China that it owns the 9-dash line. It owns everything within the 9-dash line. Of course, that 9-dash line has been declared void by the arbitral tribunal. So China is now using force. China will use armed might and deadly force to enforce its claim of ownership to everything within the nine dash line. That's about 85.7% of the South China Sea. That will mean China will take away from the Philippines about 80% of our EEZ in the Philippines. So that is where we are. Of course, that is China's position. Our position is that the arbitral ruling has finally settled who owns the West Philippine Sea as far as the EEZ is concerned, and it's the Philippines that owns the EEZ there. So with that, I will be ready to answer your questions, any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Justice Carpio, for your very educational and informative presentation to our youth and to our viewers. So yes, we are now opening the floor to questions from our online audience. So feel free to drop any queries through the comment box in the live stream. And I see that we already have one question, sir. China's claim to the West Philippine Sea is based on historic rights. Now, based on the recent developments, apparently, we also have historical claims to the West Philippine Sea and Scarborough Shoal, apart from the part that these are part of our EEZ. Now, if the current administration is not doing anything about it, what can we, as citizens, do to assert our rights to these territories?
Well, thank you for that question. What we should do is to educate ourselves of what our rights are in the EEZ, in the West Philippine Sea, and then engage our neighbors, Vietnamese, Malaysian, Indonesia, because we have the same rights. We are being prejudiced, all of us are being prejudiced by China's 9-9, so that we can have a common cause with them. And once we have established this discussion group with the Vietnamese, Malaysians, Indonesians, the Bruneians, then we can talk to the rest of the world to educate them that China does not own the South China Sea. Historically, we have the rights there. Legally, we have the rights there. And so the entire world will now tell the Chinese people, hey, you cannot claim what's not yours. And this is how we can win, because we have already established the basis. We went to the arbitral tribunal so that we have a legal standing, legal basis, because without a legal ruling, the people of the world will say, this is what you say, and this is what China says. We don't know who is correct. Now, there is an independent tribunal that has said the Philippines is correct. It has a full EEZ in the West Philippine Sea. So let us all educate ourselves on this issue and discuss this with our friends in Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia, and discuss it with the rest of the youths of the world. And together, we will talk to the Chinese youth. We live in the same world. Let us respect each other's rights, and let us not take what does not belong to us. And I think we can get through, because in China, they are never taught this. My lecture is not available in China. They cannot go to YouTube and listen to my lecture because it's banned. But before COVID-19, about 100 million Chinese go out of China every year as tourists. So when they're outside of China, they have access to the internet. And we can engage them. Many of them study abroad. This will take time. But the truth is on our side. The law is on our side. History is on our side. We cannot possibly lose this. We can lose this if we wave, if we don't fight for it. So we have to educate ourselves, tie up now with the Vietnamese, the Malaysians, the Indonesians, and discuss this among ourselves, and then engage the Europeans, the Japanese, the Australians, and together we will talk to the Chinese youth. And the Chinese people are just like all other peoples of the world. They are good. The only problem is they were taught only one history which is false. The Chinese Communist Party taught them that they own the South China Sea since 2,000 years ago. Totally false. And they do not know of any other narrative. So we have to tell them. I've met many of their scholars, and the scholars are saying, you're right, but I cannot do otherwise. I will lose my job. But this will take time because they are good people. The Chinese people are good people. The only problem is they were taught only one historical narrative. That historical narrative happens to be false. So the truth will set them free. And it's up to us. We have all the historical records. We have the legal arguments. It's really up to us now to bring this out to the world, discuss it with the other young people of the world, and then together we will talk to the Chinese youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I suppose that now more than ever, our relationships with our neighbors is of utmost importance, and that we really have to nurture these friendly relations with our neighbors. And this brings me to another question. There was a claim that the only way this could be resolved was if the Philippines were to take a stronger stance to assert our sovereign rights, it would simply result in war. May we know your thoughts about this?
Well, China has a doctrine. They call it the three warfares strategy. This three warfare strategy of China has been was approved by the Chinese Communist Party, by their General Plenum, by the Military Commission. So it's doctrinal in China. Their strategy is to win the South China Sea without firing a single shot. For them, war is not an option because if there is a small skirmish, that skirmish could escalate into a war, and it will involve the US. It will become a nuclear war. In a nuclear war, China will be obliterated. China could destroy large portions of the US, but China would be obliterated. So for them, war is not an option. So their strategy is to win without firing a single shot. And they have the three warfares. The first warfare is to use a historical narrative that they own the South China Sea since 2,000 years ago, that China is an old civilization and we own it. And initially, a lot of people in the West thought, yes, China is an old civilization, so they must own the South China Sea. This is where I came in. When I came in, people in Harvard were saying, China probably owns the South China Sea. It's an old civilization. And we were able to change that by presenting facts, presenting the maps of China, historical maps of China. So this historical narrative has been debunked, and China now is embarrassed to raise this. The second warfare of China is a legal warfare, that the law of the sea, UNCLOS, was signed only in 1982, and therefore it cannot affect the rights since 2,000 years ago. But of course, we went to the tribunal and asked the tribunal, is China correct to claim historic rights? And the tribunal said there are no historic rights because when UNCLOS was signed in 1982, the agreement was all historic rights are extinguished. So we again debunked. That claim of China is dead in the water. The third warfare of China is China will intimidate everybody. with its huge warships, its warplanes, its missiles, and its air and naval bases in the Spratlys. You have no chance to beat us, surrender, accept the nine dash line as the national boundary of China. Only Duterte has fallen for this. We will not fall for that. Other countries have not fallen for this. So this is now the last warfare that China is using, intimidation. But only the stupid will be intimidated because we know China cannot go to war. We have a treaty with the US. If China attacks us, the US comes in, and China, the last thing that China wants is to give the US a legal excuse to intervene. And they will never allow the US to intervene because they have no chance. We have this dilapidated ship in Ayungin Shoal called the BRP Sierra Madre. You've probably seen it. It's like a ghost ship, but it is still manned by about 12 Philippine soldiers. These brave soldiers who stay there for months without replenishment. They just fish to survive. China could take out that ship anytime. It's totally defenseless. But they just circle around it. They don't want to touch it because they know if they attack that, we can invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty because that ship is still carried as an active naval ship in a roster of naval vessels. Because the Mutual Defense Treaty says any armed attack on a public vessel of the Philippines, public vessel means a Navy ship or a Coast Guard ship. So we carry that dilapidated ship which can no longer sail in a roster of active ship. And China knows this. And China doesn't want to take the chance of attacking it and allowing the Philippines to invoke the treaty. So they just wait for that ship to collapse. So that is the value of the Mutual Defense Treaty. China doesn't want to give the US a legal excuse. But we're not taking advantage of that. Because the president said, I will set aside the ruling and I will get loans and investments from China. They promised me 22 billion dollars in loans and investments. That was in 2016 when he became president. Nothing has been delivered, less than 3% of what was promised. And it's all over now because his term is expiring in a year's time. And China is not, with the COVID, with its domestic problems, it will not resume those loans, extending those loans anymore. That's the consensus of everybody. So we did not get anything, but China was able to freeze our arbitral ruling. But okay, that's water under the bridge. Let's move forward. Let's face the future. The ruling is still there. It's still intact. We can still use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think what will help us to move forward is to, of course, embrace all these ideas that we are learning from you today because we're truly building on our knowledge of this situation. And well, one thing that the advocacy of our students is trying to address would be ignorance, but the other is also indifference. So in your opinion, what do you think is causing more harm among the Filipino youth when it comes to matters regarding politics, governance, such as the West Philippine Sea issue? Would it be ignorance or would it be indifference?
Well, I think it's just lack of understanding because probably they cannot relate the dispute in the West Philippine Sea to their actual needs. But it's easy to make that connection. Like our fish is very expensive now. We import galunggong. But where do we import galunggong? We import it from China. Where does China get the galunggong? From our exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea. Our fishermen are complaining. Their catch is declining. When they go out, they face these huge trawlers of China in the West Philippine Sea, and they cannot catch anything anymore. So the connection is there. It hits the stomach of the ordinary Filipino. it affects the price of food in our table. So we are definitely affected. And, you know, 40% of the energy requirement of Luzon comes from Malampaya gas field. 40%. And it's going to run out of gas in 2 to 3 years. The replacement of Malampaya is supposed to be Reed Bank, which is bigger in reserves, in terms of gas reserves. But we cannot develop Reed Bank because China is stopping us. So what will happen if we cannot find a replacement? 40% of the energy of requirement of Luzon comes from Malampaya. If we can't find a replacement, we will have rotating brownouts of 12 to 14 hours. And that means factories will be closed, schools will be closed, malls will be closed. That will be devastating. That is why the Lopez Group, they operate those two big gas-fired plants in Batangas. They put up an LNG terminal. They're importing liquefied natural gas. You know, this natural gas, when you liquefy it, you put in a ship and you can transport it. It has to be liquefied. And once it arrives in the port, you put it underground, you keep it in cold storage, it's still liquefied. And then when you are about to use it in the gas plant, you bring it back to normal temperature. But it's a very expensive process. Right now, we just, the gas from Malampaya is just piped. We have a pipeline from Malampaya all the way to Batangas. So that means if we cannot find a replacement for our gas in the West Philippine Sea, we have to import liquefied natural gas. That means very expensive power. Our power rates will go up. So these are all connected. And so we have to find a way to develop a Reed Bank. That's why we had to go to the tribunal, because no company will pour millions of dollars to develop Reed Bank if there is a question on who owns the gas. Before the tribunal ruled that the Philippines owns the gas, China said we also own it. So no British, no American company would dare pour money into developing Reed Bank when there is a question of ownership. So it was important, essential that we get a ruling. And that ruling came in July 12 of 2016. The Philippines owns the gas in Reed Bank. So investors now can put their money there. So these are all connected. So we have to understand all of this relationship, because we will be affected. There will be rotating brownouts, worse than COVID, if there will be 12 to 14 hours of brownouts every year. You probably remember 1992 when we had rotating brownouts in Luzon, and it was really bad. But this will be worse. So that is the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I'm afraid that we don't have time for any more questions. So that concludes our question and answer portion. And of course, we are very grateful to the Honorable Senior Associate Justice Carpio for sharing with us his valuable time and wisdom in today's event. Thank you very much, sir. Hopefully, this issue can motivate Filipinos to make a united effort to protect the livelihoods and rights of our people and the well-being of our environment and our economy and our political relations and diplomatic relations with our neighbors. Thank you once again, Honorable Justice Carpio.
Thank you also. My pleasure.
Before we move on to our next speaker, we would like to take a few minutes to show you a short video prepared by the grade 12 GAS students promoting their advocacy.
Are you tired of being led on? Are you tired of giving the time of day to people who put their wants before your needs? Are you tired of people who don't do the bare minimum to maintain the inner peace you oh so value? Are you tired of trusting no good, dirty liars who do nothing but take and take and take and take and take and take and take until you have nothing left to give? Well, look no further. We have decided to finally unveil our brand new product application. Yes, that's right. Give a hand for Voter, where choosing wisely always comes easy. Wait, you thought this was a dating app? Tough luck. Electing officials with the proper credentials is just as important as finding a potential boyfriend or girlfriend. If you think all you desperate singles have it bad, think about the repercussions of electing an official who don't do their job. So, shh, and let me explain. This ingenious application was created by none other than us, your most trustworthy and reliable companions at a world-renowned tech company, Political Correctness. An app designed to have all the information you need in the palm of your hand. Now, choosing a candidate is no longer a chore, but a joyful hobby. Voter uses the most cutting-edge AI technology in the world, created using a thorough analysis of the minds of the world's top political scientists, along with the occasional average Joe with more than half a brain and some basic human decency. Political candidates are accurately screened and categorized according to strict criteria. So, let's say you're stuck on a political candidate. My, isn't he handsome? He's an actor and he's got quite the following. You might just vote for him. But wait, let's use the app first to see if this man's actually worth his salt. Oh dear, guess you can't judge a book by its cover now, can you? This man owns none of the required characteristics of a good politician. Now let's see what he does have. Ooh, he's a messy one. Now you're probably wondering, what do I do when I find a candidate that I just don't want to vote for? That's very easy. Just swipe left and voila! That man is gone and you won't have to spare a second thought about voting for this old clown. Your work isn't done yet though, because now you've got a new candidate to screen. Wow, this guy's just as good looking as the other one. But first, let's see if he's just as bad. And he passes with flying colors. Now that we found our perfect candidate, all you gotta do is swipe right, and now you've got a perfect match made in heaven. This candidate practically landed in your lap with minimal effort. Politics is now... Oh, Mr. Corrupt Politician, what are you doing here? I'm live, and wait, please, I have a family, sir, please, no! We at Tiwala hope that you've paid attention to the list of characteristics mentioned in our voter commercial. Although the voter app isn't real, looking into each candidate's characteristic is an incredibly important factor when voting for a politician. Stay tuned for next week for an upcoming big surprise that we at Tiwala have prepared for you. Don't forget to follow our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram to see what's in store. Thank you.
Welcome back. We now move on to the next part of our program. Our next speaker is the representative of the 2nd District of Bataan, a graduate of the University of Asia and the Pacific with a degree in Bachelor of Arts and Humanities with specialization in political economy. He began his political career serving as the mayor of Balanga from 2007 to 2016. As congressman, he has filed 3 legislative bills seeking to boost public health and secure economic activities during the COVID-19 pandemic. He has also authored several House bills, including one that prohibits and penalizes the dissemination of false or manipulated information, as well as one that promotes the use of environmentally friendly and sustainable vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm welcome to the Honorable Jose Enrique Garcia III.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Lisa, for that introduction. Good afternoon to all our viewers from Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom, and of course to the organizers of this Tiwala campaign. So I am Joet Garcia, representative of the 2nd District of Bataan, and I was tasked to share with you some of the things that we're doing in Bataan, especially mobilizing our youth in health promotion, in pushing for health promotion. And better siguro if I can share my slide, if I can share my screen, so that I can narrate what we have been doing in the province of Bataan. Okay. Okay, so just a brief background. Bataan is a province in central Luzon. I don't know how many of you have been to Bataan. We're a peninsula. One side faces Manila Bay and another side faces the West Philippine Sea, which I think Justice Carpio was talking about earlier. We're a small province, around 850,000 in population. We have one city and 11 municipalities. Just to show you, so I don't know if, again, how many of you have been to Bataan, but these are some of our destinations. So of course, Mount Samat. The one below is the plaza of the city of Balanga. Then the other picture is Las Casas Filipinas de Acosar. And the last one is the wetland park, where you can go bird watching. So I was mayor of the city of Balanga from 2007 to 2016. And as mayor, we looked into what were the main problems of the city which we should focus on. And I guess we all, or most of you would agree that one of the main programs that any local government should have is health. Because more than anything, we all believe that health is wealth. It's very important that we are able to take care of our health. And when we looked at the data, we saw that many of the causes of death in our city and in our province are preventable. Meaning these are non-communicable diseases. These are lifestyle-related diseases. And just to let you know, the number one cause of preventable death is tobacco, is smoking. That's why we, through the help of the City Council, we tried to focus on how we can come up with an effective campaign to help our citizens and, of course, our youth to stop smoking or not start the habit of smoking. I'd like also to show you what our country currently has in terms of regulation. So this is the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003. So we have several thrusts, but we'd like to focus on letter E, which is protect the youth from being initiated to cigarette smoking and tobacco use by prohibiting the sale of tobacco product to minors. So that was one of the things that we saw we should focus on and get the youth to buy in that program, that campaign to prevent themselves from using any tobacco products. Then aside from this Republic Act 9211, recently President Duterte also signed Executive Order number 106, No, this is in regards to the regulation of what is now popularly known as vapes, itong e-cigarettes. No, so as you can see, our government only allows it to be sold to more than 21 years old. And then same as cigarettes, you can only use this, no, in certain areas. We are also prohibiting the use of flavors. And of course, this has to be approved by the FDA. So what we did more than 10 years ago was to visit each and every school and push for this program that we call Wag Maging Sad. So Wag Maging Sad, SAD, means smoker, alcoholic, and drug addict. So myself included, leaders of the city went to every school to explain the importance of removing any bad habits, the importance of not going into these vices. And then we also looked at the possibility of even expanding the program. So aside from just asking them not to go into such vices, why not make it more positive? So we push for the creation of a support group, initially called the Happy Club, which is healthy adolescent participating in program for youth. So we tried to push them to organize themselves so that together they can fight the temptation of all these vices, and together they can become happier and healthier. We were very successful, in fact. The feedback from our school children here was positive. And we were fortunate that in 2015, we met this doctor from Singapore who started a movement, a global movement. He is the founder of Tobacco Free Generation International. His name is Dr. Heng Nung Kong. And he's a doctor. So he's a lung specialist. Based on his experience, every time most of his patients, most of those who got sick with their sickness in the lungs, most of them were smokers. So he told himself, if we will just try to cope up with all the lung sickness or diseases, this will never end. No, it will just be a vicious cycle. So he said to himself, he must do something to make this stop. Because every year he probably does around 200, more than 200 surgeries. And it's the same cause, it's the same reason, and it never stops. No, it's because of smoking that he has patients that have all these lung diseases. So what he said is, what he pushed for is for a certain generation. For example, year 2000. From that generation moving forward, those born in that year, once they become adults, they won't smoke as well. So that to put an end to the vicious cycle. Because although we have a law that prevents the youth from buying cigarettes or e-cigarettes until you're 18 or 21 years old, still it doesn't stop them from becoming smokers when they're adults. So again, the vicious cycle doesn't stop. So what he was trying to push for is to get the youth to commit, to get the youth to believe that smoking is not only bad for your health, but it's also bad for the health of your family and your friends. And this has to stop by preventing our youth from getting the habit, especially when they're adults. So what we did, and we believed it was a very innovative and very worthwhile cause. So we went around again the schools in Bataan, and we talked to the students, explaining to them the ill effects of smoking, and also that they can change this country, especially when it comes to health. since smoking is the number one cause of preventable deaths. If we eliminate or minimize our smoking prevalence, then this will have a big impact in our country. And all we need is for the youth of this generation, the youth now and the future generation to say no, to not even get the habit of smoking. So we went to all the schools. We were able to get across the message to, I believe, around 15,000 students. And in fact, we even have, after explaining to them the ill effects of smoking and what tobacco-free generation is all about, we even did a survey. We wanted to get their feedback. How important is prevention of smoking, especially for the youth? And as you can see in the table, we have 99.6% saying that it is very important. Also, how determined are you to not to become a replacement smoker? 99.8% are determined not to become a replacement smoker. When you say replacement smoker, you're replacing the adults. So as you become an adult and as the adults eventually leave this world, the new generation would replace them as smokers. So we want to cut that. We want the youth, the new generation to completely stop this particular vice because it's causing so much harm for our health and for everyone here in our country. And then also another table, would you support a proposal to prevent tobacco from being made available to the younger generation born after a specified year? And again, overwhelmingly, 99.8% said yes. So this we got them to commit that they will not smoke their entire life. From now that they're students, they're part of the youth until they are adults. So we have thousands of them who committed, and we hope that they're able to stick to their commitment. But how do we help them stick to their commitment? So it's easy, or we always see the importance of all these campaigns. But sometimes what is difficult is how to follow through, how to implement, or how to stick by your commitment. So what the city did and what the schools did, especially with the help of DepEd, is to continuously support our youth through various health programs, through various health promotion programs. And I'd like to show you a video that became a culminating activity of this tobacco-free generation movement. What we did was to apply in the Guinness World Book of Records, to break the Guinness World Book of Records with the largest dance fitness class. So this is a record that was, I think, held by India, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago. And fortunately, the city of Balanga was able to break it. But the great thing about it is it's not only getting them to break the world record, but this is making a firm stand and commitment to the commitment of avoiding tobacco and smoking their whole life. And I'd like to show you the video.
confirm that your total today was 16,218. So therefore, it's a new Guinness World Records. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, so that was our one of our culminating activities way back in 2016. And as you can see in the faces of the students, our youth, they were very happy, they were very inspired. It wasn't easy to participate. In fact, we had to rehearse this twice. So we had to go to the highway at 2 o'clock in the morning to rehearse it because we had to start at 6 a.m. And the Guinness was very strict in the time and also in the number of people that will complete the dance fitness class. So moving forward, although we cannot control what our students will decide on later on, but I think the memory, the impact that the activity had on them will play a major role moving forward in their pursuit, of a healthy lifestyle. We didn't stop from that Guinness attempt to break the Guinness World Record. So from that time, every year would have different health activities like bicycle for TFG and also student leaders. In fact, Dr. Kong would invite students from Singapore to collaborate with our students here on how to come up with better ideas for our movement and for our campaign. So from the group of students that we were able to nurture in a way, and those who were really committed in pushing for a healthy lifestyle, not only for themselves, but also for the other youth. We now moved into forming this peer facilitators group. So we have a program wherein we would train our youth so that they could be the ate, the kuya of other youth in their school or even in their barangay. So this would, of course, deal with many issues or many concerns that our youth would have with healthy lifestyle, nutrition, smoking, alcohol use, substance use, mental health, and even sexuality. So this is our training manual. We were helped by our state university, the Bataan Peninsula State University. So there are many modules. I think the training program lasted for around 2 weeks. So this is module A, and this is module B. And over the years, we've had, because of the training that they initiated many programs together with other organizations such as our Sangguniang Kabataan. And from only 8 volunteers in 2016, they grew to more than 600 in 2019. And they're now not only influencing the youth here in the province of Bataan, but they're also going around the country. In fact, later on, I'll show you a video where we turned over this program, or our youth committed to help the other youth in the country by training them as well to become peer facilitators. And to give you a better idea on what they do, here's another video made by our peer facilitators.
Kaibigan, ikaw ba ay may problema? Kailangan mo ba ng kausap? Wala ka na bang malapitan at papagsabihan ng iyong problema? Kung iniisip mo na wala nang nakakaintindi sa'yo, nagkakamali ka. Ihinahandog ng City Government ng Balanga, katuwang City Health Office, ang isang programang magbibigay kulay sa buhay
ng bawat kabataan ngayon. Ang Peer Facilitators Program. Kaibigan, narito kami.
Narito kami.
At kami ay handang makinig,
Dumamay
at sumuporta sa'yo.
kaibigan.
Nakakaintriga ba? Interesado ka na bang maging bahagi ng programa? Kung ganon, narito kaming mga peer facilitators upang mas ipaliwanag pa ng mabuti ang mga salitang nakapaloob sa programang ito, kung ano nga ba talaga ang Peer Facilitators Program at ang mga layunin nito.
Bakit nga ba may Peer Facilitator Program? Alam naman natin na ang adolescent stage ang pinaka-crucial at pinaka-mahirap na stage ng ating kabataan. Sa stage na to, kadalasang nakakadanas ng stress ang mga kabataan sa pagbabalanse ng kanilang oras sa pamilya, pag-aaral at trabaho at iba pang personal nilang gawain. Bilang resulta, masyadong nahihirapan ang mga kabataan to the point na hindi nila alam o hindi na nila nalalaman kung paano pabalansehin ito. Para matugunan ang problema na to, naisip ng City Government of Balanga na maggawa ng isang programa na involve ang mga kabataang voluntaryo na gustong tumulong sa kapwa nila kabataan in means of giving them emotional and social support. At ang peer facilitator ang sagot. Nilalayon ng programa na ito na magserbisyo sa mga kabataang Balanggenyo. Serbisyo na makatutulong sa kanila para sa pagtulong nila sa kapwa nila kabataan. Sa programa ding ito, papalawakin ang kanilang kaalaman tungkol sa iba't ibang tema ukol sa kalusugan. Kung paano ito ma-maintain at paano mamuhay ng maayos.
Isang bukas na puso para tumulong lamang ang kailangan. Upang maging isang peer facilitator,
Maging isang produktibong kabataan.
kaya
Kaya't makiisa na, tumalagong komunidad, naming mga kabataang nagtutulungan
Para sa pagbuo ng magandang kinabukasan.
Okay, so that was produced by our peer facilitators, and it's continuing, no, even up to this date. They continue to try to not only promote health, but also be ears, be the support group for their other classmates or their friends. So as I mentioned earlier, they were invited by DepEd Region 3 to try and spread this program in the provinces here in Region 3. All right. And then lastly, I'd like to emphasize or to talk about Republic Act 11223, which is the Universal Healthcare Act. Although this seeks to provide the best healthcare services for every Filipino, a very important part of this law is the designation of our schools, of all the schools, which should be healthy settings. Meaning, when our students graduate from elementary and high school, they should already have what we call the healthy lifestyle. So it cannot be just based on theory. It cannot be just based on the notes that they have. They should be able to practice and live a healthy lifestyle. So again, aside from avoiding all the vices, they should eat healthy. They should eat healthy. They should exercise regularly. So that's all part of the law, which is the universal healthcare. So if you look at it, the responsibility of our schools, the responsibility of our teachers, the administration, and even our students is big and is important for this law to become successful. So in the law, again, this is the section of the law on what should be provided for by our schools. So I can post a copy of the law in our chat box, but it really means making our students not only aware, but also living it, living this healthy lifestyle. So what we did so that we can help our schools accept the challenge of this new law to make the schools healthy settings, what we did was to come up with this program called KKK. So it helps, we bring in every school different agencies, different offices, and different groups so that we can jumpstart the programs, the schools programs for healthy lifestyle. And I'd like to show you there. So what we do is at the start of the day, we do our hataw, so that's exercise. Then we come up also, fellow youth would talk about how to become better students and better leaders. We tried to start for again the Gulayan sa Paaralan program so that they have ample supply of vegetables. We focus also on dental health and then mental health. We talked about agriculture, even yung laro ng lahi. So I don't know among our viewers, no, how many of you still play the games that we used to play, that your parents, that your lola and lola used to play before. So we try to expose our students to those types of games. And then, of course, lecture, on health promotion. Then, aside from that, another very popular program that we had. So we have 1 city and 11 towns or municipalities. In 2019, we came up with the program Sa Kabataan, Takbo sa Bawat Bayan. So since there are 12 months in a year, we would have each town sponsor their fun run. And of course, our main participants in this fun run are our students. So each town was able to successfully hold their fun run. And what we wanted, it's sad that we had this pandemic. In fact, what we wanted for the year 2020 is the fun run of the town is the culminating activity of the various fun runs that the barangays would organize, that the barangays would have. So that it really becomes routine, it becomes part of our lives, joining fun runs, joining various sports activities. Because in the end, if you are very active, if you have an active lifestyle, it will help you try to get rid or to avoid all these vices. Trying to prevent people from smoking is not easy, but it becomes easier, it becomes more realizable, and you get the buy-in of your constituents if there are activities, if the environment helps them promote a healthy lifestyle. So we saw it fit that all agencies, most especially our local government units, continually provide, especially our youth, various activities so that they're able to have a healthy lifestyle, be happy, be more positive, and also help the other youth in their community. And lastly, I'd like to end with another video. As I mentioned, we'd always want to organize events so that our youth would enjoy. And at the same time, once they enjoy, it will have an impact. They will remember those events. But those events are not just for fun. Those events always bring a message. They always bring a lesson. And again, this is what we did in 2019. We invited the Department of Education, the Department of Health, the National Youth Commission, and other agencies so that we can share with them the practice that we have here in Bataan. And hopefully, especially through DepEd and DOH, they will make this a program in the whole country. And in fact, our peer facilitators our youth are more than willing to share their experiences to other youth in other parts of the country so that we can all move forward and push for this tobacco-free generation. So I'd just like to finally share this with you. So as you can see, the program where all of us talked and explained the role of each and every one took 5 hours. So you can imagine how bored the students were. But after all the messages, I think you felt and you saw in the video that they still had full of energy to participate in the hataw with neon sticks. You know, so they also were very appreciative of this program, and they said that it's something that they will remember for the rest of their lives. And but more important, they'll remember it not only as a fun night, but also a night where they again committed to not smoke their entire life and to make sure that the new generation will not smoke, and we will be preventing deaths for all Filipinos. So again, thank you very much for inviting me to share with you what we're trying to do. We'd love to collaborate with our students, with your group, so that we can push further our health promotion program in the whole country. Maraming salamat po. Magandang gabi sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Congressman Joet Garcia, for those very encouraging words on how communities can be transformed through the youth. I think we see that sometimes our youth take for granted how health is wealth. So your message will be of great inspiration to them. But also, congratulations for engaging the youth in making that record in the Guinness Book of World Records. So congratulations for that. Now we open the floor for some questions from our online audience. And our viewers can feel free to type them in the comment box in the live stream. Okay. Well, we have one question. Many often fail to see the potential of our youth, the potential that our youth have in sharing their talents, or they fail to take seriously the good intentions of our youth. So we truly appreciate how you have given importance to youth activities and initiatives in your district. What different roles can the youth play to be responsible citizens of their community and make a change in today's society?
Thank you for that question. So based on our experience, it's always the engaging part that gets our youth motivated, inspired to share what they know, to share what they have. We've seen it with our peer facilitators. We've seen it with when we organized that massive dance fitness class. That once you show them what can be done, and that people can pitch in and help out with a particular initiative, then it gives them the confidence to move forward. So I think recognizing them, the groups, recognizing them individually, and even maybe providing them some sort of a project, or assigning them a project, of course with the support of everyone, will help them be able to better develop all their ideas. I'd like to share also that for entrepreneurs, for our youth entrepreneurs, the City Hall has a roof deck, and we designated that roof deck for them. So the city giving them a space in the City Hall where they can, think of problems and how to solve them, think of ideas and how to turn them into businesses. I think that gave them the go signal, to really try and explore, try and come up, with more ideas, to attempt even, not to be scared of failing, but to keep on trying, so that we are able to come up with good ideas that the community will be able to use.
Yes, thank you. The point is well taken. And we hope that our youth viewing today will also realize that they can never be too young to make a change. So give them a voice and give them the space. And I think that as we've witnessed with our own students, they can do wonders if you give that to them. Now, we go also to one of your projects, one of the last ones you showed, where your youth made that commitment not to smoke for life, okay, to avoid that vice for life. If they are offered these vices, what can the youth do to protect themselves, to strengthen their stance against such offers, to avoid such offers?
I think the most important thing that they can use to, avoid vices is knowledge, awareness. The fact that you know where it's going to, the fact that you may not be feeling anything now, you might be 100% healthy, but we all know how smoking, how tobacco, how e-cigarettes, because they're addictive. They have nicotine. Once you're addicted, sometimes you don't even have freedom to decide to stop, because your body will crave for it, your body will look for it. So once you know that those are the circumstances that surround these products, that once you start, you can get hooked, and it will be very difficult to move away from it. And then even if you're already, as you grow old, of course, the effect of tobacco, the effect of nicotine, the effect of all the chemicals in these products will take a toll on your health. I think that if that is very clear in the minds of our youth, then they won't accept it, they won't try it, and they will also get their peers to not start the habit. And very important also, Lisa, this is a global problem. This is a global problem. Number one cause of preventable death. So people die because of using this product, but it could have been prevented by not using the product. So just imagine how healthy the world would be without tobacco smoke, without smoking. No? So we have to realize that we're going on a very vicious cycle. We keep on coming up with programs for smoking cessation, nicotine pads. Now they claim that e-cigarettes can help you stop smoking. But all these, the best way is not to start the habit. The best way as a youth is to commit and to become better Filipinos. Our generation now, we failed because there are still millions of Filipinos who are smoking. But the new generation, I believe, knows better, thinks better, and will be able to be of service to this country, especially starting with how they take care of themselves.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate how you are doing your best to instill that health consciousness in your province and in your community. And since you mentioned a while ago that it would be nice to partner with our group, what initiatives do you have at the moment that perhaps the youth of Bataan and our own students can endeavor in together, especially this health advocacy? I mean, we're entering the summer months. They will be looking for something to do, even if there's a pandemic going on.
In fact, our youth group has been helping other schools in other provinces. And in fact, they were also invited in the city of Manila. We were able to talk to Mayor Isko. Although Mayor Isko admitted that he is a smoker, but he'd like to support this move by the youth to prevent them from smoking in the future. So we can engage with your group, maybe through Zoom, come up with a program wherein they can collaborate, your initiatives, their initiatives, and how we can push this, especially now that we cannot go out. Most of us cannot go out. But we can do so much online. In fact, you don't even have to leave your house to attend a seminar now. So we can do so much online, so that during the summer we can do capacity building, trainers training, so that we can come up with many online programs and campaigns that should be effective for our youth.
Okay, that's great. Something to look forward to, and we will definitely be in touch with you for that possibility. And we have one more question here. First and foremost, you are a family man and the father of 3 sons. And I believe the eldest will be a first-time voter in next year's national elections. So what advice would you give your son to prepare him to vote? And in a way, how would that advice help our youth also?
What I observed with my son is they get so agitated, they get so concerned with what they read, watch online, television. But as we all know, there are always 2 sides of a coin, 2 sides of a story. I told him to be more analytical, to think about things that he reads or watches, to think about it really well, so that he'll be able to understand the real situation. Fake news is so popular now, so we have to be able to point out, and we have to be able to separate what's fake news and what's real news. So we have to be objective. Maybe we cannot just listen to one person. We cannot just listen to one program. Maybe we can further do some research, or maybe even look at the circumstance of statements that have been mentioned. What were the circumstances surrounding it before we make judgment? So that's what I advised him, because social media is so powerful now. And sometimes what comes out is true. Sometimes what comes out is not true. So it is so unfair for some people who are accused falsely online or in television or in these various programs. So it's as a responsible citizen, as a responsible youth, we always have to look at both sides and try to analyze it properly before we make a decision, especially when we come vote in 2022.
Yes, thank you so much. Excellent advice, Congressman Joet. And maybe we can also ask the parents viewing to take up these issues and have open dialogue with their children to prepare them to vote for the first time. I believe that we have already run out of time for the question and answer portion. So thank you very much again, Honorable Jose Enrique Garcia III, for sharing with us your valuable time and wisdom in today's event. We hope that our youth learned a lot from your sharing and experiences, and that they will be motivated to make a change in their country. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again.
Thank you very much. It was an honor and pleasure to share our experience here.
Before we end today's live stream, I would like to welcome Francine Kililan of the Grade 12 GAS class to give today's closing remarks on behalf of our students.
Good evening. On behalf of my classmates, I would like to give our utmost thanks to everyone who made this event possible. To Mrs. Romana and Mrs. Sator, the Woodrow Student Council, the Woodrow's community, the Parif community, and of course our speakers. Thank you so much for giving us your time, your skills, and your resources for this event. There's no denying that the events currently happening in Philippine politics are messy, unjust, frustrating, and even scary, and that our circumstances have been like this long before the virus arrived in our country. And it is because of this that our class started this campaign with the goal of raising awareness about our country's political state and encouraging our fellow youth to participate in improving it, not out of anger or spite, but simply out of love for the people around us. At the beginning stages of this project, we really did not expect it to grow into something as big as this. So I would just like to take the time to thank the following people for what they have contributed to this event. To both speakers, thank you so much for imparting your knowledge and wisdom to us here today. We wish the both of you the best as you continue your service to the country. And I'm sure that I speak on behalf of all of us when I say we learned a lot about how we can serve and unite our country. And we will try to exemplify the same hope and spirit of service that you show in our own lives. To Mrs. Romana and Mrs. Sator, we are so grateful for your participation in this event and your loving guidance from the very beginning until now. From approval on our outputs to emotional support, we hope that we appreciate everything that you've given us. With you as our teachers, our love for country has only grown stronger. To Tati, Carmela, and the Woodrow Student Council, our class could not thank you enough for the resources that you provided with us as we prepared for this event. Even though we had our setbacks, you showed so much strength in coordinating and motivating us to continue on. Thank you also to Thea and Nina and from Progcom, Mrs. Joko, and the Woodrow System Ad for your vital efforts in making this event possible. To Mr. Jose Kawada and Ms. Angelita Lauchenko for your help in getting us in touch with speakers and the overwhelming support you gave us. Thank you. Finally, to my 33 classmates in GAS, I would say all of your names, but for the sake of data privacy, I won't. It was truly an honor to work with such talented, diligent, kind, and sincere people, not just in this project, but for the past 2 years we've been together. Your love for country shone through in each and every one of your outputs, whether you were in charge of research, writing, graphic design, video editing, posting material on social media, or planning out this program. This event was a beautiful way to end our journey together, and I look forward to what these 33 brilliant Filipino women will set out to do in the future, as I have a firm hope in today's youth to offer great things to our country. As the 2022 national elections draw closer, it's important for us to understand the issues that are at stake especially for many of us who are voting for the first time next year. Hopefully, when it is our time to vote, we can practice this right in a manner that brings dignity to our people, our environment, our health, our history, our rights, and our identity. However, let us also remember that participation as citizens goes beyond voting in elections, because it is in staying informed about what is happening and refusing to allow our fellow man to suffer where we contribute the most to our country's progress. Lastly, let us all have faith in our capabilities to do good in our community and believe in the capabilities of those around us to do the same. No matter what happens, let us believe in the Filipino. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Francine, and congratulations also to the Tiwala team. I think that you girls put a lot of work into this project, and we see how it has grown into a very satisfying success. We also hope that you and your peers after you, those who come after you, will take this advocacy further, even beyond your time in Woodrose, to do your part in promoting voters' education. This is definitely not the last you will see of Tiwala. We urge our audience and followers to watch out for more online events like this in the months leading up to the 2022 national elections. We have now reached the conclusion of today's live event. Thank you to all the speakers for graciously accepting our invitation and further spreading the inspiring message of Tiwala. We would also like to thank our online audience for their constant support and encouragement through the likes, shares, and views that the Tiwala page has gained. In line with this, we hope that this event has encouraged you to be more politically active and engaged. Let us not give up on the future of our country, but instead, let us trust and believe in the Filipino. I am Lisa Sator. Thank you for joining us, and have a pleasant evening.
Women of character, women of strength, the rose, the symbol of splendor, its beauty endures forever. Honor, faith, integrity, Woodrose teaches all.